Good morning, students. Welcome to the second class of the story, Growing Up. As you remember, in yesterday's class, we have taken up the first 3 pages of the story. We started with the story Growing Up by Joyce Carey. And in this story, I said it is a story about a father and his 2 daughters. The title Growing Up is quite appropriate because the process of growing is so subtle that sometimes we do not feel it. And the same happens with the protagonist of the story, the father of the story, Mr. Robert Quick. Mr. Robert Quick works away from home, and generally, when he comes back home, his 2 little daughters, Kate and Jenny, they make it a point to stop their father's car somewhere in the middle of the road. They wait for him, and when the father comes, they hop onto the car and come home with him. There is a lot of love, there is a lot of care, there is a lot of, exchanges between the father and the daughters. When the story begins, Robert Quick is returning back from work, and as usual, he is anticipating that his 2 daughters would be waiting for him at the corner. They would stop his car and then they would sit with him and then come back home. The first jolt that he suffers in the story is when he sees that the daughters are not waiting for him. Somehow, with a heavy heart, he reaches home. And when he reaches home, he calls out to his children, "Hello, hello, hello." But again, there is very weak response. The exuberance, the excitement, the feeling of longing and the feeling of waiting which the daughters should have felt for their father was missing. When Robert Quick enters the house, the description of the garden of the house is given, which is quite wild, with none of the flower beds, where none of the flowers are in proper order. And this again has a symbolic meaning, which we will discuss when we take the critical aspect of the story. So as the story progresses, Robert Quick calls to his 2 daughters, Kate and Jenny. And when he calls to Jenny, Jenny is just relaxing, and she looks through her hair and looks at her father and says, "Okay, hello, if you have come, why should I bother about it?" This is her response. And then Kate, who's a year elder to Jenny, she just replies to her father's warm "hello, hello" in a very weak and muffled voice. So actually, this was not the response which Robert Quick had expected of his 2 daughters. But despite all this, he doesn't bother his daughters much, and then he takes a chair and he sits and he relaxes. After that, the 2 daughters, they start moving here and there, and while moving, the daughter, she puts a little stick, she throws a little stick at the bitch of the Quicks, a Snot. And then Snot, the bitch, realizes it is some kind of a game, and then she starts tugging at Kate's thigh. And when the bitch starts tugging at Kate's thigh, the 2 daughters, they realize that this is some kind of a game, and then they start playing with the bitch. They start running after the bitch, they start throwing stones and sticks and whatever they could find on their way. The bitch is startled. No doubt the daughters used to play with the bitch, but this was kind of a treatment which the bitch had not anticipated. And she realized as if this is some kind of a new play. The bitch, she starts running here and there, and the daughters, they start running after the bitch, crying, "Tiger, tiger, tiger." The 2 children, both Kate and Jenny, I'll read the lines from the text. They dashed after the bitch, laughing, bumping together, falling over each other, and snatching up anything they could find to throw at the fugitive. Pebbles, dead daffodils, bits of flower pots, lumps of earth. Now Snot, the bitch, was horrified, overwhelmed, dodged to and fro, barked hysterically, put her wagged tail in desperate submission, finally putting it between her legs, and crept winning between a broken shed and a wall. So the behavior of the girls is, quite off the mark. They start chasing the bitch, they start running after her, throwing whatever they could lay their hands on. And this is a kind of a play, this is a kind of a behavior which even the bitch is unable to understand, and she starts giving signals as if she's asking for help, and then she's wanting to save herself. The father, who was was watching all these episodes, the father who was watching the entire scene, he's just shocked by the behavior of his daughters. And he yells, "Don't do that, don't do that." Now, when he yells at his daughter, though it is not a very loud yelling, but it is just a rebuke as, "What are you doing? Why are you troubling the small bitch? Why are you troubling the poor animal who doesn't speak and who cannot say?" And the daughters in turn, to the surprise of the father, they start attacking the father. And all of a sudden, both the daughters are upon the father, and one of them sits on the father's chest, and she puts her hand as if to strangle her father. Though she's not doing it, but for a bit, the father realizes, Mr. Robert Quick realizes, as if she was trying to strangle him. And in all this commotion, the bitch, she thinks as if this is also some kind of a game, and she also puts herself into this, trying to grab a leg or a hand of Robert Quick. And in this, she puts a few marks on Robert Quick's face. Now then, Kate and Jenny, they cry, "Oh my God, father, she's bitten you. Oh, she's bitten you. Look, look, Kate." Rolling off his legs, came to her knees. So she has bad snot. Now, there is a change of scene. The girls who were furious, who were wanting to attack their father, who were, literally attacking their father, all of a sudden they change. They become the doting nurses, they become the caring daughters, which Robert Quick is not able to comprehend. The two daughters, they say, "Come on, father, let us treat you, let us put some cotton and let us put some spirit onto your wound so that you're healed." And the father, without saying anything, he goes inside. Then there is a kitty party which the mother of the house has organized, and there are few women who are invited to that party. And all of a sudden, the two girls who were very wild, very notorious, attacking, running, shouting, shabbily dressed with their hands and feet covered in mud, all of a sudden they are decked into beautiful young ladies, serving tea and biscuits in the party, and the cynosure of all eyes, gaining a lot of attention. And Mr. Robert Quick, at this point of time, he realizes that he is a little stifled, he's a little suffocated, and he wants to get away from this. He proposes to go to the club where he can have a little word with Mr. Old Wilkins in the billiard room, where he can chat and then he can talk. So in this complete ladies department, in this complete ladies household, he feels an urge to go out and have some male company. So he decides and he starts moving out of the house. And then all of a sudden, Jenny starts shouting from the back, "Hello daddy, hello daddy." And Robert Quick was already too much perturbed, too much fazed by the behavior of the girls, that he in fact did not know how to react. And then he stops, and Jenny comes running after him and says, "Daddy, I want to look at the wound," though she had put the spirit and everything. And so Robert Quick bends a little, but she says, no, you lift me up." So the father lifts his daughter and places her on the wall so that she becomes a little taller than the father. And then she looks down at him with an expression he did not recognize. What was the game? Medical, maternal. So Robert Quick is surprised. He is not able to catch the emotions of his daughter as to what the daughters are up to. Are they being the medical attendants, or are they being the caring of the maternal types? Then she looks at the wound and then she says goodbye, and then she runs off. For a few minutes, Robert Quick is not able to understand what has happened with him. The transformation that has taken place in his life, the change in the behavior of the children, the change in his own attitude is something that he, attributes and, sums up to one single word, and that is growing up. Probably in this particular phase, Robert Quick realizes that the girls have grown up, or in fact, he also has grown up. So this is the story of growing up of both the daughters, Kate and Jenny, and also of the father, Mr. Robert Quick. So in this class, we have just taken up the summary. In tomorrow's class, we are going to take up the critical summary in detail and let us analyze more about the story. Thank you, students. Thank you.